Hello, everyone, and welcome to the virtual interactive session on managing product development complexities in challenging times, organized by Publish Industry India in association with Siemens Industry Software. My name is Anvita Pillai. I'm the sub editor and correspondent at Publish Industry India, and I shall be your host for today. Um, if necessity is the mother of innovation, it's safe to say that COVID has proved to be mother of all necessities. Currently, we are in need of a pragmatic approach and product innovation working in synchrony to scale up the legacy of supply chain and business operations to be flexible, adaptable, and fast. Product development, more than just manufacturing the product, it is knowledge work. Each product develop each product development involves unique challenges and requires unique solutions. Today, in today's virtual interactive session, we shall deliberate on how creating a highly efficient product and manufacturing environment can foster continuous innovation, continuous and measurable product and process innovation, how one can reduce the time to market while ensuring product reliability and brand recognition, and lastly, how one can manage design complexities while keeping innovation in product as a close ally. To give a brief agenda for today, we will begin with a guest address by Mr. T.K. Ramesh, who is who's the MD and CEO at ACE Micromatic. This would be followed by a presentation by Mr. Nitin Malvarkar, the country technical manager for mainstream engineering at Siemens Industry Software. And finally, a panel discussion on managing product development complexities in challenging times, moderated by Mr. Shekhar Jatkar, who's the chief editor at Publish Industry India, with panelists Mr. Sirish Devgi, the Managing Director at Milacron India, Mr. Sameer Kelkar, the CEO and R&D Head at Grindmaster, Dr. Vishwas Putige, the Business Head at Amaze Solutions, and Mr. Nitin Malwadkar. Before we begin today, a couple of instructions for our speakers and audience. I would request our speakers to keep their mic and video on mute until their names have been announced. Kindly keep your kindly use your earphones to ensure audio clarity during the session. And we would be taking question and answer from the audience after every session, which would be redirected to you by Mr. Shekhar Jatkar. And and to our audience, I would request you to type out your questions for the speakers in the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen. Please refrain from writing the questions in the chat section, as there's a good possibility we might miss out on them. So just next to the chat box, there's a Q&A box. So you can type out your questions over there. And also during the panel discussion, if your questions are directed to any particular speaker, I would request you to mention their names along with the question. Now, to begin with the sessions for today, I would like to invite on board Mr. T.K. Ramesh, the Managing Director and CEO at ACE Micromatic, for his guest address. This would, again, as I mentioned, this would be followed by an audience question and answer, which would be redirected to you by Mr. Shekhar Jatkar. So over to you, Mr. Ramesh.
Thank you, Anvita. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for the opportunity. And would I be able to share my screen, please?
Yes, I believe you have been given the rights. You can share your screen.
No. Thank you. Is my screen visible to all, and am I audible?
Yes, your screen is visible and you're pretty audible.
Thank you. Thank you, Shekhar. Thank you, Efficient Manufacturing. Thank you, Siemens, for this opportunity to talk to all of you and interact with each one of you as a guest address this afternoon. We have been in tough times. Of course, change and complexity was always there, but we've suddenly had a spanner thrown at us with COVID. And while it has certainly set the cat among the pigeons, but this has also been an opportunity where a lot of digital initiatives and digitization, which definitely is going to stand for the good of all of us, is perhaps what we should take home and be prepared for. I would like to just share with you all some data that I had in 2003 after which, we had the SARS and the MERS in China and some of the Southeast Asian countries, I believe digitization took a leap of almost a decade, and 2003 to 2013, that particular 10-year period, there was a huge amount of productivity gains that happened because of the digitization that they were forced to take. Of course, may not be of the situation then may not have been to the scale at which it is now, with the whole world being affected. So we've got to look for the silver lining in every cloud and move ahead. Again, we are in tough times, and I personally believe that innovation is the key for any business to succeed in challenging times. And today's topic speaks of two words: challenging and complex. We are in this year, from an Indian perspective, got in with an extremely wonderful year that went by, 18-19. So even before the COVID, 19-20 was not all that great for many of us, whether it was the automotive industry, whether it was the machine tool industry, because a lot of capacity expansions happened, and 18-19 were boom times and tremendous amount of business and turnovers happened. Compared to that, 19-20, something started going wrong. The elections were expected. After the elections, the growth was expected, which really, really never came. So the objective of being successful, the objective and the tool that we really need is to bring about innovation and to use innovation. Now, what is this innovation? I just put together some thoughts, and I thought that I could share with you. Ultimately, we are all giving products and services to our customers, and we expect that these products and services give us brand sustainability, and importantly, satisfaction and profits. And of course, along with that, the societal gains of whether it's being non-polluting or making sure that sustainability is there from all dimensions and to all stakeholders. So it's extremely, extremely important. It always was, but in these times that we really need to look at life cycle cost and experience. Value is not just the cost of a product, but the entire life cycle cost. We always knew that, but the criticality and the seriousness of that becomes even more important now. So it's like a tip of the iceberg. We start that as designed, as built, and as experienced. So this is something that is extremely important, that we need to look at innovation at each one of these stages. And today, with all this digitization that is happening, we really need to look at how there is an interconnection, and we could look at how the perception of experience for the use of the product is going to be at the time we are designing it and also as we build it. Just some data. There was a recent global innovation excellence study, and it very, very clearly says that businesses and companies that innovate have a tremendous impact on their top and bottom lines. Innovation can boost EBITDA margins by a minimum of at least 4 to 10 percentage points. And these are, again, it's a global study. It's in extremely mature markets, and 10 times higher returns can be got for innovative investments. And it is at times like these that we really, really need to look at what are those innovative investments that need to be made so that they help us across the value chain, they help us within the organization, they help us with our supply chain, and most importantly, these innovations can be carried forward as experiences to our customers and consumers. The minute we speak of a product or a business, the stages, the 8 stages that really come into the picture that I could think of is: we decide, we design, we plan, we buy, and we make. Now, there's nothing earth-shattering about this, but it's extremely important to look at this thread that is running through each and every one of these 8 very, very important aspects of a product or a business, right from, again, we are in the machine tool business. You have to, when you're designing, you have to be aware of movement. Machines, will they fit into a container? What kind of size? What kind of width? What kind of depth? What are the logistic challenges? Now, these are things that need to be kept right in our minds, right from the decision and deciding stage itself, and follow right through the entire process of manufacture, and most important, link it with right up to maintenance. This is the core of what I'd like to leave you all today as a part of this guest lecture. Customer experience. See, if we really look at success of companies over the decades, the early 70s and 80s, products meeting specification were good enough for success and customer satisfaction. When we moved into the 90s, perhaps it was all about quality. This is a better machine. This is a more thought out machine. So from meeting specifications to quality, and as we look at what's happening a few years back, it was largely about customer satisfaction, selling equipment, servicing equipment, and making sure that the customer was satisfied or delighted. But going ahead, and what's really happening right now, it's the thought process is about customer experience over the entire product life cycle. So the customer is now going more and more by experience, and this is exactly what is happening by whether it's the social media stream, whether it's on hotels, whether it's on very, very low expense products or capital equipment or automobiles or cars, because with customers sharing experiences, building an aura around products, really lifetime experience and thereby lifetime cost and customer experience is an extremely, extremely important aspect of what we'll have to keep in mind. So when we're really talking about any of the new age processes that we're trying to look for, design, right at the time of design, you need to be aware of the parts, the assemblies, the interaction of the assemblies with other assemblies. You will have to test, you will have to analyze, and not learn of these after a prototype is made, because those kind of costs, those kind of time cycles are all long gone. So you should be able to look at the product at its design stage and use of three-dimensional tooling, look at the supply chain that needs to be bought in. So it is extremely, extremely important that we have digital threads built into our product development programs, built into our product development processes, and we should have tools that could give us an insight of the conditions that happen to our design in actual use for analysis and for working. Of course, a lot of us have already been experiencing and working with 3D tools, 3D design tools, but it is in these kind of platforms that design software, product lifecycle management software, and the integration of these two become extremely important, and they do not stop with just introduction of the product, but they really are going to be playing a bigger and bigger role over the satisfaction of the use of the product. I'm just trying to show something that we have here as a centerless grinding machine as to how it was designed, how the finished product looked at, and what really happens when the actual grinding. If you could look at this little picture up there, the forces of the wheel and what happens internally between the component, the regulating wheel and the grinding wheel, to that extent of simulation are all possible with tools and processes that are available today. And they are, those of you who have heard are very, very familiar of digital threads and digital twins. So we need to look at things holistically from the design stage to the building stage and to the as experience stage, because the cost of a product and the returns to a company, we are slowly moving to product as a service and service as a product era, which means it is very, very possible that product building companies today will become service companies tomorrow. I'd just like to very quickly quote here Thermax, which all of us know, is a wonderful case study. From manufacturers of boilers, today, a lot of their business comes, or most of their businesses comes from supplying steam, or in cubic meters or cubic centimeters is what they supply to the process industry, and that's how their incomes, their worth, and their sustainability comes into the picture. So products becoming services and customer experience of a finished product has to be built in right from the design stage. So very, very quickly, if we really need to put some numbers to this, the innovation triggers are market uncertainties, user segments and verticalization, because again, for example, we are machine tool people, but then our machines and their utility for the automotive sector, similar machines from a specification perspective, from a power perspective, from a size perspective, could be very similar, but the minute a machine like that gets into the aerospace segment, then the behavior of that machine, the expectation from that machine, the kind of parts that are made on that machine completely changes. So while the specifications, whether it's between centers or diameter or swing or cube capacity, remain the same, the performance of the machine, the design of the machine, and thereby the customer experience of the machine completely changes. So user segments, verticalization, and for each of these user segments and verticalizations, there needs to be integration with supply chain, and very, 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 very important from an experience perspective is pairing with the right ecosystem is where over years, because we are in the capital equipment business, many of these products are used over 15, 18, 20 years, and the machine, while it's being designed, conceived, and built by the manufacturer, but stays much longer and is expected to perform in a certain way at the customer's end. And over the life of that product, there are many things that need to be done from a tooling perspective, from a maintenance perspective, from a coolant perspective, which need to be figured in right at the design stage. And that is where these digital tools and where PLM and these kind of issues really, really play an extremely important role. So even if you look at from a return perspective, over 40% of the returns come from customer experience and lifetime cost. And this is what builds sustainability, builds brands. So long-term business and brand sustenance, which is the purpose of companies, need to be built in right at the conceptualizing, developing, and the analysis stage. So there's a design stage, which is conceptualize, develop, and analyze. There's a manufacturing stage, which is about internal term experience. Within your own factories, how well the designers coordinate with the supply chain, how well do the supply chain people understand the basic fundamental reasons of design of that machine so that they could bring about the right type of partnering. It could be logistics and it could be other manufacturing supports. So we really need to look at a platform that can connect all of this right from the time it's designed to the time its life. So this is a kind of a womb to tomb kind of a prospect that really needs to be done, and important even after the product is dead. In today's situation and from the future, from a sustainability perspective, even safe disposal needs to be looked at right at the time of design. So with these few words, I thought that I would share with you, and thank you very much again for this opportunity. And if there are any questions or anything like that, I'd be glad to take them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramesh, for that really insightful session. And you very rightly stated that it is that it will all be about customer experience and building an aura around the product now. And so without delaying any further, I will ask Mr. Jutkar to take over and ask any questions which are there for you. Mr. Jutkar, over to you.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Anamita. Thank you, Mr. Ramesh. It was excellent presentation. You touched upon the points very rightly, which makes sense in today's context. So there are a few questions. Can you just start your video cam? Yeah. Yeah. The first question is from Mr. Venkatesan. What are the points to be considered in the product lifecycle management on BOL, MOL, EOL?
See, from a product life cycle, the whole management, see, you need to be the proof of the use of the product. See, ultimately, whatever you build, it's having an extremely right understanding of how and what the customer expects from your product is the most important aspect. While I really not go into the details of, I could answer some of your detailed points a little later, but the key things that really need to be looked at is the cost of the product and the total life cycle cost really needs to be within manageable ratios, and it is not a question of buying at a particular cost and then spending over the entire life of the machine. This is something that one needs to be very, it should be maintenance friendly, it should be use friendly, it should be center friendly, the machine setter and the machine operator friendly. So these are the key aspects, of course. And in today's situation, there's a lot that needs to be said about aesthetics, touch and feel of the machine too.
Okay. Next question is from Ajay Karnam. Is innovation really working? Because I think what he mean to say is that there have been a lot of talk always on innovation, boost innovation. You should apply innovation in your day-to-day practice. So is it really working?
I certainly believe so. There's a lot of innovation that's happening, and there's a tremendous amount of innovation that is working. And from an Indian perspective, I don't know, though I'm not trying to use this word in a derogatory manner or whatever. We are known for our jugaads. Perhaps we were the only people who even innovated a simple thing like a missed call use, which again is truly innovation.
Yes.
So to that question of is innovation working, I certainly believe innovation is working, simply because given our state of infrastructure and given our conditions, the very fact that so many of us, whether it's MSMEs, are able to do so much, I certainly believe that a lot of us are doing innovation. The only question is, innovation should not be equated to taking shortcuts. That's the point I would really like to look at from a customer experience perspective.
Okay. Next question is from Parma Shah. How do we make a good customer base if we start trading this year in the pandemic?
Sorry, can you repeat that, Shekhar? How do we make a good?
How do we make a good customer base if we start trading this year in the pandemic?
See, again, any year, the pandemic definitely gives rise to certain opportunities that can be used only in a pandemic. So if we are able to understand that, let me give a simple example. Our business is selling and servicing of machine tools. Okay. Now, normally customers buy machines and we have a warranty, and if something goes wrong in that warranty, the customer expects us to come and support him in that warranty. Now here is a pandemic. Now that we cannot go, the customer also does not want us to come too close or without the right, what shall I say, clearances or the health kind of, red zone or green zone. But then the machine has to be up and running. So what do we do? Now, this is exactly where can we innovate? Can we use digital tools? So if it's, the parts of the machine, how do we check? How do we diagnose? We had to come up very quickly. Of course, thankfully, we had some tools, and we had already made a lot of digital assets through the use of videos and animations. So it was possible on a Zoom or a Teams meeting like this to connect to the customer without physically going there, showing him, asking him to send us pictures or show on a mobile camera as to what was happening, and we were able to solve these issues. So now we were able to help him without actually going there, and this was an innovation. And a customer like this, once he's convinced that you're committed to him, and no matter what the difficulties, you're going to help him, he stays committed. So starting in a pandemic, whether it's simple things like delivery, whether it's simple things like reaching out to him, which are not normally easy to do, if you find a way and do it, pandemic or no pandemic, he really gets emotionally connected to you and becomes a customer for life.
Right, right. Next question is from Abhinav Shukla. In case of innovation in India specifically, the only challenge I feel that the users are not very open to customize the product by design and process optimization. How to overcome from this issue?
See, they are not open simply because they believe that there are some proprietary things, or it is a USP that they have. So the only way that we can get people to open up and work with you is you need to convince them about the partnering, and you need to convince them about your ability to maintain confidentiality or partnering. So again, it comes back to education and education. The minute there is trust, then automatically there will be partnering.
Okay, okay. There is one more question from Venkatesan. With a central repository of data, how to reduce the time to market and also the business value to stay ahead of competition in the current situation?
With a central repository of data,
how to reduce the time to market and also the business value to stay ahead of the competition?
see, again, if you have data, again, by data, what I believe is it's about product data, it's about design data. Since let me simply say, convert the data into data about your sub-assemblies, data about your parts. Then if you're looking at extension of range, then because you have all the data, because you have everything in a central repository, and because it is digital, perhaps your new machine, which need not be a completely new machine, maybe an extension of range, you could certainly do it at a much faster rate. If you're trying to find new uses for your existing product, now if you have data, then it may be possible for you to analyze and test under the conditions that the customer wants, and you may be able to convince, convey, or even offer to the customer what could be the end limits. So whether it is new product, whether it is better use of existing product, whether it is about history of your own products as to what went into the product, the fact that you have data, you can use it, you can slice it, dice it in many other ways, by which it gives you speed of time, reduction in cost, and also maybe increase your quality. This was about design data. If it's about marketing data, you have your marketing data, then you bring in a new product or you bring in a new process, you could use the very same data to reach to the set of customers ahead of somebody else who doesn't have that data. So data with you is always plus, plus, plus.
Right. So everything is based on data. Data
Yes.
is currently the content.
Oil of business.
Yes, correct. Next question is from Ameya Gole. As a design and development engineer, how can I produce high quality products at an attractive price for the customer? Should I keep reliability and durability in mind and not the cost? Example, making a high class elite design instead of making low quality cheap product.
So long question. All I can say is, again, to many of you design engineers, the belief is the best design is the simplest design. The simplest design has the least amount of parts. The least amount of parts has lowest cost. Lesser parts, lesser failure, so reliability becomes higher. So a short one-line answer could be, keep it simple, keep it straight.
Right.
That's
Balancing
perhaps should be a mantra of design.
Correct. Balancing the cost and the product reliability and
Yes.
features. Okay. currently there has been pressure on every organization in terms of the cost and the time, and also the demand is also fluctuating. There is a lot of uncertainty in the market. So what do you advise to companies, especially the small and medium scale companies? Should they invest in the new technology or innovations, or should they focus more on the cash conservation?
See, I'd like to break this into two parts. Part number one, this is tough times. So you have to survive. So yes, the fundamental basis of cash is king and making sure that you conserve cash. But again, conserve cash means what? Is to take a hard look at what you're doing and what are all waste. You need to get rid of it. And to that extent, definitely there must be an inward. See, this is the great thing about recessions and about bad times, is because we tend to take a hard look at ourselves only in bad times. So this is point number one. Second, the same thing is happening to a lot of businesses. So those businesses that can more quickly look at their not so good points, areas of improvements, and make investments. Now, when you're making those investments, you make sure that to the extent possible, they are future proof, because that's where innovation, see, just because things are bad and you don't have the scale, if you're going to invest in, let's say, an SAP system or a CRM system, may not be the right thing to do. For your business, what is clearly required to take you 3 steps ahead or 4 steps ahead is something that you must invest. And in bad times, you get better price, you get better support, because the ecosystem also has less orders and more people and more expertise is available. I know a lot of good companies who make it a point to invest in bad times because they're able to buy better. So 2 things, cash, definitely. You have to survive, but survive is only half the story. There's no point in surviving if you cannot seize tomorrow. So what is it that needs to be done for tomorrow? Those investments have to be made.
Yes, correct. Very good. Okay, with the I think there are a few more questions, but I think we can take those offline because there is a time constraint. So thank you very much for your interesting presentations and answering all the questions in a very with the real time examples. Thanks a lot. It was pleasure having you in the
Shekhar.
session.
Pleasure. Thank you all. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Ramesh, for making time out. And like Mr. Jutkar said, we'll be taking the rest of the questions offline.
Yeah.
And
you can send it to me. I mail them back if there's something that needs to be answered. Thank you.
Sure. Works fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, now I would like to invite Mr. Nitin Malvatkar, who's the Country Technical Manager for Mainstream Engineering at Siemens Industry Software, for his technology presentation. And like it just happened, after the presentation, there would be an audience Q&A. The questions would be asked to you by Mr. Jutkar. Over to you, Mr. Nitin.
Thank you. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you're very audible.
Okay, perfect. So good afternoon all. My name is Nitin Malvatkar, and I'm working with Siemens as a Country Technical Manager for Mainstream Engineering. And for today's session, I'll be talking about how small and medium businesses can utilize digitalization for managing their product development complexities. Now, you've heard a lot about digital transformation, right? But how does it address the complexities which arise while developing a product? Well, so one second, please. Yeah, sorry. So what exactly are these complexities that most organizations face? Well, we can break this at 2 levels. First, let's talk about the product level. This is where we have the integration of engineering domains, such as electronics, mechanical, and simulation. Once, the complexity challenge example we can see is with consumer goods. Now we see a new trend where manufacturers are trying to make their products as compact as possible. And to achieve this, they need to use high density PCBs and more electronics, and they need to put it into really small spaces, right? Now, this eventually ends up with organizations having to use analysis solutions like CFD and thermal simulations. Now, these solutions, along with MCAD solutions, help address the mechanical design challenges, right? And secondly, we have a complexity at the factory or the process level. Now, these complexities might include integrating, these complexities might actually be something similar to integrating design, your manufacturing, utilization, and deployment. The same principles apply to design of manufacturing and process plants, operational managements, and performance monitoring. Now, these complexities are noticeable in multiple ways, and these can be easily measured by any financial controller. Now, these financial controllers may be in the form of, let's say, lead times, cost of inventory, cost of quality, and even rework for. Now, we can even measure the result of these complexities with lost revenue or lost margin due to being late to market, or even missing out on the premium margin by being early to market. So having looked at briefly at the complexity and the consequences, how do we really solve it? Now, this is where Siemens Digital Industries comes into picture. Now, we as Siemens are all about helping companies transform into a digital enterprise. Now, with software, what we are doing is we are focused on helping accelerate that digital transformation. And we are making sure that a digital enterprise is at the heart of our customer message. Now, to reduce the complexity of a product development, it's clear that there are three different business imperatives that every customer might and will have to embrace. Now, maximizing digitalization by using digital twin, that is the first one. The second one is by adopting a solution which is modern and can be personalized. And third is working in an ecosystem that is open and flexible. Now, we believe that a key to addressing the challenges is actually with digital transformation of product development process altogether. But then the question is, what exactly is digital transformation? Now, like I mentioned before, for the past decade, Siemens has been trying to help our customers to transform their business. And this is with the help of our highly accurate digital twin. Now, the value of digital twin, as you know, is how closely the virtual world meets the physical world. And this is the advantage that we have. Our customers can continuously optimize both the product design and the production activities with the help of digital twin. Our customers are in the position to make the confident decisions. Why? Simple, because they can actually see the virtual model before going for production. And because of these virtual models, they can also trust the simulation. Now, like I explained before, the digital twin of a product can be adopted in the design stage as well. Now, this allows engineers to simulate and validate the product. For example, once you're done designing a product, how do you validate whether the product is stable and is it intuitive to use? Do the electronics operate as they're supposed to? Right? So all of this can be done with the digital twin of the product. And the same concept applies to a digital twin of a production as well. It involves every aspect of manufacturing, that is from machines and plant controllers to entire product lines. And as a result of this, if at all an error or a failure occurs, these can be identified and prevented before actual operations even begin. Second, we help companies in taking a personalized approach. There are many ways to achieve digital transformation, many paths that companies can take. But what we do is we understand that it's not necessary that one single approach will work for everyone. And we also understand that companies need to be able to work at their own pace. And this is exactly the personalization that we offer to our customers. Plus, we help companies in meeting the individual need of customers, of users within their organizations as well. For example, the younger generation. Now, the younger generation looks forward to digital solutions. Now, the solutions which can help them learn and perform their task, right? And this is where some of our solutions like the technical documentations can help. Now, these solutions can help create technical animations which can be played in real time on a screen or even a mobile device. And these can be used to showcase how the assembly comes together or even how a part needs to be manufactured. Because of this, this solution not only help in reducing the number of training sessions that need to be conducted for, let's say, new hires on the shop floor, but it can also reduce the number of errors which might arise on the shop floor. And contrary to the misconception, all these technical documentations can be created within hours and not days. Now, third, we understand that the customers need a flexible and an open system. Now, we know that no organization is going to work alone in isolation. They depend on multiple other organizations, of course, and collaboration between organizations is absolutely necessary to create this value. Now, without digital solutions, companies can use cloud-based portals to create these industrial collaborations, be it with the suppliers, customers, partners, or distributors even. All of them can collaborate within an ecosystem with the help of our open ecosystem. And this open ecosystem extends to the user level as well. As you are aware, today, turning complexity into a competitive advantage, it requires a lot of IT systems that work extremely well together, right? For this, systems must be open and provide a broad ecosystem of opportunities. And this is exactly what our solutions provide to our customers. One such company who has applied digitalization to manage their design complexity is Kimball International. Now, Kimball International is into designing custom-made furnishing, which are used in offices, which are used in offices, hospitals, schools, and hotels. So, what made them adopt this digital transformation process? Well, that was because of the dynamics of their marketplace. In the late 1990s, the life of Kimball product was about 10 years, and they could develop a product in about 2 or 3 years. But they realized that by 2020, a typical life of a Kimball product would be less than 3 years. So now they needed to develop their new products not in 2 years, but in 3 months. So in 2017, they reimagined the complete design and manufacturing process. They decided to become fully digitalized. They implemented the form of digital twin to help them right from conceptualization through delivery. And they have achieved a phenomenal transformation. For example, let's have a look at what they're doing with a simple office chair. In the past, what they used to do was they had just one chair for all human sizes. But now, with the multiple chair sizes and shapes, they are able to create multiple types of chair sizes for each body type and weight. And for the future, they plan on making customized chair for each and every individual. Can you imagine? Office chairs that recognize you and automatically adjust their proportions. Sounds fantastic, right? Well, many of their products now include electronics. Their office desks, for example, feature wireless connectivity. And very soon, their office chairs may be equipped with sensors to encourage workers to take breaks, especially for them who have been sitting for a long time. And all this is achieved by products like Solid Edge and Teamcenter. So before I end, I would like to give the organizations a couple of takeaways from this session. First would be to prioritize. I would encourage all the organizations to look for areas where digital transformation can support your key business priorities. Now, for most companies, this would mean prioritizing both design processes and product development. What may come as a surprise for you is that a lot of even small businesses have already been investing in digital transformation, and they are already experiencing both the digital and design improvements. Second takeaway would be to focus on improvement. The focus on improving key product designs and development process with digital transformation. Now, improving product quality, addressing complexity are some of the leading reasons for investing into product design and development. So our message to organizations is, don't try to reduce complexity because it's really not going to go away. So we as business provide all the required solutions that can not only help you to make the decisions with confidence, but we can also help you move faster, reduce cost, create new business models as well. And with that, I'm done with my presentations and I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Nitin, for your insightful presentation. And I would like to ask Mr. Shekhar Jatkar to ask the questions that are redirected to Mr. Nitin. Over to you, Mr. Jatkar.
Yeah, just a sec. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Nitin.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it was great insight into the technology. So there is one question. Great example from Kimball. How does the company plan to manufacture customized parts for each individual?
Well, they have already started doing this, to be honest. I mean, now what they're doing is they're trying to put in, like I mentioned, they're trying to put in multiple sensors within that chair itself. Like I mentioned, now what they're trying to do is they're trying to create it a customized chair for every individual in such a way that if a person sits on it within a few minutes, based on the sensors and everything else, the chairs can actually adapt itself. So that is where they are planning and they're planning to go with.
Okay. The next question is from Ajay Karnam. Is your ECAD MCAD integrations working?
Yeah, our ECAD MCAD integration is working, and it's probably the best thing that we have inside our portfolio of solutions right now. Normally, what happens is MCAD works in a different, different place and different machine, for example, and uh, MCAD and ECAD, sorry, both of them work on different machines, right? But now we have something which is very unique in Siemens portfolio solutions, which we call it as a connected mode, by which both the MCAD and ECAD can integrate with each other. Not only can they integrate with each other, but if at all a designer makes any changes on ECAD, the MCAD is automatically updated, and the same happens vice versa. In case the MCAD designer makes any changes, the ECAD, along with the bill of materials and the wire length, gets automatically updated as well.
Okay. The next question is from Anindita Datta. For a digital twin of the manufacturing plant, what is the biggest challenge?
Sorry?
For a digital twin of any manufacturing plant, what is the biggest challenge? I mean, for deploying digital twin in a manufacturing plant, what are the challenges normally you anticipate?
Well, that's the whole point. I mean, like we are trying to eliminate this and this most of the challenges that we face practically right now. Right now, it becomes when you're trying to, set up a new plant, we don't really know, let's say take a service example, or let's say there's a service engineer, and who needs to work in a particular plant, and he needs to understand, how to go about doing that, how to go about doing a servicing of that particular uh, machine. So what we do over here is we have multiple options like virtual reality and augmented reality, which can actually help them.
Okay. Any example of ROI, if we can share? The question is from Vipin Kumar. I don't know. It's a general question.
Any example of what is ROI and what exactly?
He hasn't mentioned anything on that part.
Okay, maybe we can take this later on. I'm
Yeah,
not really sure,
sure.
but I mean, I'll be more than happy to answer it
Okay.
afterwards. That's fine.
Okay, we'll take the next one. Mr. Suresh Jambulkar. Digital challenge, application and skill set are the very much like this anticipated challenges. So how do you resolve that? Application of a particular digital technology in their setup and the skill sets.
Well, like I mentioned, this is where one of our complexities is addressed by a digital solution. So let's say, for example, you have an issue when it comes to assembly line, right? You're facing some issues when it comes to manufacturing flow in terms of assembly lines. So now, normally what happens is on the assembly floor, there are a lot of people who work on a contract basis. So from a company's perspective, what they do is they set up a training session for these new hires, and they teach them how to go about doing this particular assembly and all these things. But since these people are working on contract basis, they find a better contract, they're bound to leave. So again, from a company's perspective, they're stuck with hiring a new person, again, spending time trying to train these people and all of these things, right? So what we're saying is we have something known as technical documentation, we call it as a next generation of technical documentation, in fact. Why do we call it next generation? It's very simple. We can create technical animations and which are completely interactive. So instead of conducting a training session, what we can do is we can share some technical interactive videos with the new hires, which will not only teach these new hires how to go about making that particular assembly, but it will also, you can also incorporate a small thing such as testing whether the person has understood this assembly or not. So this is the kind of next generation of documentation we can provide, and which can help in increasing the skill set.
The next question is again from Mr. Venkatesan. Select complexity drivers, strength, and influence in product development. I don't know whether you understood it.
I'm sorry, can you come back again?
How to select complexity drivers, strength, and influence in product development. I'm also not clear on this question.
Driver strength, you know what, maybe
complexity, what is driving the complexity in the design, in the product development?
There are multiple factors, like I mentioned, what exactly, I mean, for example, the biggest complexity is, like I mentioned, when you have something sophisticated like, ECAD and MCAD, or like electromechanical product. Now, these are getting very, very complicated now. Let's take an example of an electric car. So this is also getting very, very sophisticated. So how do you do this? I mean, how do you work on these kind of sophisticated products? Well, for that, you require, a sophisticated solution. Again, a sophisticated solution does not mean that it has to be an expensive solution. It doesn't mean that it is a very difficult solution, right? For example, automatic car, it sounds sophisticated, but once you start using it, using it yourself, then you realize it's pretty easy to use. So the same applies for the solutions that we offer. These may sound as sophisticated solutions, but then these are very easy to use and very, very easy to implement.
Okay, right. I think other questions we'll take it offline.
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Nitin. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Mr. Nitin. Thank you, Mr. Shekhar, for having the Q&A and solving all the queries. We'll take the rest of the questions offline due to the time constraint. Now, before we move on to the panel discussion, we have a poll question for our audience. Can we have the question on screen, please? So the question is, how effectively do you think your organization is using digitalization tools currently? You have 3 options and you have 20 seconds to lodge your answer, which starts now. So the 3 options are, just reading it out, we are yet to adopt digitalization tools, we are using digitalization tools to full extent, and we have the digitalization tools, but we don't use them completely. Can we have the results on screen, please? Okay, so 41% people claim that they have the digitalization tools, but they're not using it completely. And 32% people are yet to adopt digitalization tools, and only 27% people are using the tools to the full extent. So thank you so much for your answers. And now we'll be proceeding to the last session for today. It is a panel discussion on managing product development complexities in challenging times. I would like to call upon the session moderator, Mr. Shekhar Jutkar, and the speakers, Mr. Sirish Divdi, the Managing Director at Mailachron India, Mr. Sameer Kelkar, the CEO and R&D Head at Grindmaster, Dr. Vishwas Putige, the Business Head at Amaze Solutions, and lastly, Mr. Nitin Malwadkar, the Country Technical Manager for Mainstream Engineering at Siemens Industry Software. Over to you, Mr. Jutkar.
Yeah, thanks, Anvita. Good evening, everyone. Hope you are all doing well and taking good care of yourself. So it's my pleasure to moderate today's panel discussion. It's the second session of this series. And I would like to again personally thank Siemens Industry Software, Danish and Nitin Malwadkar, and each of the speakers for their participation in the session today. Hope we'll have a good interactive and interesting discussion, and the audience will take some value out of this. This COVID-19 pandemic, this has presented a very huge challenges for the manufacturing industry, and that too on a global scale. And that requires new business strategies, new types of collaborations to address these challenges. So as organizations begin to restart their operations in the new normal, the manufacturing executives are grappling with this long-term question, that is, how will the manufacturing and its supply chain look like after COVID-19? And as they think about building the muscle to deal with the future crisis like this, so using digital technologies, whether using digital technologies will be top of their mind, or that there may be some other strategies they are looking at. So we need to identify that. So however, the upswing in technology adoption could be asymmetric because of the two opposing forces, like the need to develop resilience and agility to deal with the crisis against the constraint imposed by the cash preservation. That's what Mr. Ramesh very rightly answered that. So in this scenario, adjusting operations in real time calls for a new approach to everything we do. Be it the products we design, the products we manufacture, the processes we use, the safety measures we follow, the technologies which we deploy, the way we respond to market requirements, the way we communicate, and most importantly, the manner we manage workforce in the current situation. So in this today's panel discussion, we'll deliberate on this interesting topic, managing product development complexities in the challenging times with the help of digitalization technologies. With this, I will ask the first question to Mr. Divji. So there has been a huge disruption in the manufacturing and supply chain operations due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So such kind of situation demands production companies think and act differently, and look at new normal for best practices in every function. So in this scenario, how to reduce time to market and launch products faster in the current situation, ensuring product reliability and establishing the brand recognition.
Thank you very much, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you very much, Mr. Jitkar, and it was a wonderful presentation by Mr. Ramesh. He laid down the subject very relevantly, and thank you very much for the co-panelists. I am very sure we all will learn from each other, and the questions also are coming out very nicely, so that is also a source of learning. And actually, that is the way I look at it in the new normal. You know, the disruption has really made us think differently. I mean, I will relate it to my business. We make injection molding machines, very similar to what Mr. Ramesh makes for metal cutting. We make it for plastic processing machines. Milacron is a multinational company where we make around 2,000 machines a year here, and US makes just 200 machines. So, overall, it's a multinational company, and with that, we have a great opportunity to see what really happened after this pandemic. And one thing I can say that before pandemic, it was all volume-based growth, and now it is definitely a value-based growth. So customers are looking for a lot of different things. Why not this? Why don't you reduce your floor space? Why don't you increase your speeds? Why don't you reduce your energy? And those are all valid questions. Of course, they were there earlier, but now it is becoming more and more relevant as well as pressing. So I think the focus definitely comes on product development and innovation. I think to the question which Mr. Jitkar asked, what is the how do you reduce the time to market and launch the products faster? In at least machinery business, it definitely takes time, but I know from my, when I joined a manufacturing company, it used to take 2 years to launch a product. And today at this point of time, we launch a product maybe in 4 months. And thanks to wonderful softwares like Nitin pointed out, we have so many good softwares which can really test the product or even the parts or the assembly or the bill of material or the accuracy. Many things it can be, we can test it on the softwares. So that makes the life very easy it cannot come back after the product development. But a very well-defined product strategy, and I think again the people are very, very important. You know, in cricket we know that more and more all-rounders are required. So I think in design also we need all-rounders who know the manufacturing, who know the product applications. So they will play a very, very important role in reducing the time to market. You know, one more thing which I want to mention here is the risk management. You know, in most of the product development, there is a risk in product, there is risk in safeties, there is risk in you know, business case, defining the business case. So there are a lot of risks, and how well we define these business risks right at the initial stage while designing the product, and you know, getting it a prototype and making sure that the prototype is first time right. Lot of hard work there. And again, I will stress upon the all-rounders that will make this successful. So these are some of my thoughts based on our experiences of 25 years. Mr. Jitkar, maybe you can have views from others also.
Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah, I will ask the same question to Dr. Bishwas, since you have been working in the product development for long. So what are your thoughts on reducing the time to market and launching the products faster in the current situation, at the same time ensuring the product reliability and establishing the brand recognition?
Yeah, good evening to all of you. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, yes.
Thank you again, Mr. Jitkar, for this opportunity. It's wonderful to be listening to the panelists here and, of course, the presentations that came before this. So to answer to your question, I think a lot of them were beautifully covered by Mr. Nitin. What is really interesting is we get to see this quite a lot lately in terms of time to market a product and shortening the whole product development life cycle. So today, with the aid of very good tools, especially software tools, people are able to design, or developers are able to design products much faster. When I say design, it's not just the design of it, it's design, simulate, analyze, validate a design much before it's taken to the manufacturing. So I believe what used to happen earlier would be multiple iterations of design, which would probably go for manufacturing and come back for modifications. Today, the success rate in terms of converting a design in terms of right first time is far superior compared to earlier, because we all know design could take would take much lesser than what it would take to validate a part through the manufacturing process. So today we have wonderful tools and software which are available in terms of not only speeding up the design process through a lot of automated routes, like very beautifully mentioned by Mr. Divgi, how a 2-year product is now being done in 4 months. I think it's on the same lines with most of the other manufacturing industries too, where there's a demand by the users, end users, in terms of increased or shortening the whole development cycle time. And not only in design, but also in manufacturing, we're seeing this a lot. We have some wonderful unconventional tools or techniques that are being followed to get the product manufactured and ready and make it available for the market sooner. So especially processes like your 3D printing technologies, which is what we are working on. Amaze Solutions, which I represent right now, is a company who provide 3D printing or additive manufacturing services. So we see multiple of these components, which are prototypes or design validation parts with multiple varieties, are being 3D printed and being used for validating these designs. So we have been party to some of these developments, which have taken very short times, in fact, in some cases, even few hours in terms of manufacturing certain parts and making it available for end users. So I think today, with the aid of wonderful tools, which all come under the bracket of digitalization, both in design and manufacturing, people are able to, of course, you have your AR and VR, which also helps you in the assembly process, faster training and faster validation or implementation of the assemblies to be able to make the machine or the product faster. So the whole development life cycle is shrinking, and with the aid of these wonderful tools which are there today. So that's about the development and taking it to market sooner. But reliability is a totally new ballgame. I think, again, what used to happen before in terms of these iterative ways of making a product and then taking it to market before getting feedback, today a lot of the manufacturers are adapting wonderful design tools like your design FMEAs and other analysis tools to be able to predict any failures well in advance at the design stage itself, so that you get much better reliability of the product. So we have seen that both in automotive and capital goods equipment, where the product reliabilities have gone up significantly. And with the adaptation of digital tools, I think this is only going to get better in the near future.
Right. Yeah, I will come to Samir now. So do you think these unnecessary complexities can increase your product development time and cost? How to manage these design complexities and product development cost across the entire value chain so as to bring maximum value to customers?
I would like to highlight here the necessity of being very close to the market and the customer. Like especially for turnkey solutions or turnkey manufacturing system solutions, the recent period of volatility has meant that the demands from manufacturing industry on machine tools and automation has been changing very, very fast. Like where dedicated high volume manufacturing lines were the norm a couple of years ago, more flexible manufacturing systems are the norm now. This demands knowing the customer and knowing the requirements, a key defining point on what should be developed. If the correct solution is being developed, I believe it can get down the time of the development also significantly. So understanding the changing market scenarios and defining what is to be developed is a key challenge, especially given the volatile scenario of today.
Right. Yeah, Nitin, you would like to add to this question in terms of whether the complexities are increasing your product development time as well as the cost, and how to manage that?
Sure. You know what I think is that, organizations are under tremendous pressure to deliver more than ever, and that actually percolates down to the suppliers as well. The best way to forward is, again, with the fear of reputation, is collaboration between supplier and customer. This is really, really important. The closer the collaboration, the better is the understanding of the expectations of the customer, and faster are the responses that we can provide, right? Well, within an organization as well, collaboration can be at various levels. I mean, it can be between design teams, departments like purchase and inventory, manufacturing, even sales and marketing, right? So all need to collaborate and to avoid getting disrupted by changes that are really out of our control as of now. So what I would suggest is, with the various solutions available, I'm sure these will definitely, help these businesses in each and every step of their idealization to utilization as well.
Mr. Jitkar, I would like to add a small point here.
Yes, sure.
Just remember, Milacron, when we started in operations in India or the technology transfer in India, we had a concept of wolf pack concept. Typically these wolves come together to kill a prey, and then after the work is done, they go back to their this thing. So we have a concept called wolf pack, which simply means, like Mr. Nitin pointed out, people from experts from design, purchase, even vendors, even shop floor, whoever is required, they all come together in a project stage and they meet very frequently. Of course, on daily basis, they are not together, but defined time, they are all together. They do the Kaizens together, and even some Kaizens were done at, the vendor's place. So I think working together really gets optimized in terms of design complexities. It reduces because there are solutions. When a designer says this is how it is to be manufactured, maybe a vendor can say a better way to do it because he is very much experienced on it. And in terms of cost, when three people could put together, there are definitely cost optimizations rather than a designer releasing the part and then it goes to the purchase and then cost comes and then you start negotiating. I mean, we can all do it right at the starting stage. So this Wolfpack concept has really helped us not only in terms of speeding up the new products, but also optimizing the costs.
That's interesting. Yeah, I will have the next question to you, Mr. Divgi. So we discussed about the product cost and this product development time, but the total cost of ownership is also important. So that makes the measurable impact in the overall manufacturing costs and of course the margins, which is very important in today's critical situation. So how to optimize this total cost of ownership, and is there any specific framework or formula would you recommend?
Well, I look at it little differently, Mr. Jitkar, and I welcome views from others. The cost, when the total cost of ownership definitely has two components in it. One is the initial buying cost and second is the running cost. And definitely there is another, resale value, they say, or the disposal cost. So these are the three components and we need to tie everything together to find out what is the optimum use. For example, Milacron machines are definitely higher in price than the competitors. But the moment we enter into a customer's premises, we get into a value discussion because there is a short weight consistency, there is energy saving, there is a productivity increase. So all these put together, we can show the customer and we prove it also that the value which you are paying more is returned back to you within 6 months or 8 months. And this is how the value is designed into a product to deliver better, and it has to be proven. It's not just a salesman going and saying that we are better. It has to be proven, and that's exactly when the word of mouth goes, and then we get more orders. But coming back to cost of ownership, it definitely is driven by these three factors, but also the reliability and the cost of spares, cost of communication. Industry 4.0 has really helped us a lot in, for example, a problem can be talked to a operator and sorted out within seconds rather than in a day when the service engineer used to visit. So these are lot of things we can really address with the use of technologies to reduce the cost of ownership.
Right. Yeah, Nitin, would you like to add in terms of more from the technology perspective in terms of optimizing the total cost of ownership?
Sure. Sure, Shekhar. See, any organization, has certain parameters of success. It might be in terms of time to market, increase productivity, or increase efficiency as well. Now, all these parameters are dynamic, and of course, any organization spends a lot of time with the department heads, and people and their employees to get on a sweet spot. So what happens is, sometimes what happens is when you're working and when you try to increase the quality, you end up increasing the cost. So that does not help you in profitability, right? So similarly, if you're decreasing the cost, the reliability of the product goes down comparatively. So what we suggest is, as an organization, you should be thinking, okay, let me deploy a tool which can help do what normally took me 3 months manually to just 3 days. Right. So as an organization, again, even if those, 1 or 2 things which I'm able to control, let's say by deploying a digital tool, and if I'm able to save my time, for example, 2 months or even 15 days, that means I'm able to go to the market, faster by those 2 months or by 15 days. And we have multiple tools available which can help save time on the repetitive task by automating the design process. For example, we have nesting as an example, where you let the software optimize the complete sheet for sheet metal cutting, in which normally takes you hardly minutes, instead of your manufacturing engineer spending hours on it. Another solution designers can use, and is something which is very very useful for them, is what we call it as subdivision modeling. Now, this subdivision modeling solution is a solution which can help reduce a complicated surface modeling. Something which used to take them 3 days can now be designed in just 15 minutes. So these are some of the solutions which can actually help them out.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to ask Samir now how to use new technologies such as, now we are talking about digitalization, to build smarter products in sync with the market requirements in the current challenging times, and how should be the approach towards adoption of these technologies?
I believe that there is a very good opportunity for manufacturing, especially here in India, to not only adopt digitalization to move from industry 3.0 to 4.0, but for several market segments to leapfrog the 3.0 stage and jump directly from 2.0 to 4.0. Market segments such as cookware manufacturing, or metal industry that is making like the steel and various materials, or foundry and forge industries, have a real opportunity to leapfrog in technology to the industry 4.0. Here, of course, they have to combine the benefits of digitalization with the benefits of mechanization in the form of robotics or CNC technology or special purpose machine technology. But using this can really bring about a transformation, a very big change in the manufacturing landscape. I'll just give an example from the foundry industry, where there are many polishing, finishing, or grinding operations that are being done manually at the moment. Mechanizing these operations to use machines and robotics can really like help to change how the fettling shop or the polishing shop of a foundry can look. So like there is both a opportunity to move from the 3.0 to 4.0, but also to jump from 2.0 to 4.0.
Correct. Yeah, Dr. Vishwas, would you like to add anything in this? Last 5-6 months, do you think the approach towards adoption of these digitalization technologies have changed? Because there was a long, good drive on digitalization before pandemic as well. But do you think because of the pandemic, there is a change in the approach towards adoption of these technologies?
Well, I think it's definitely not changed. It might have slowed down the whole adaptation process, but people are really using this time to explore better how they can leverage on the technologies here. And customers are becoming more demanding lately. They need more information. They need to be aware of what's going on in on their products and processes. So using some of the excuse me, some of the smart sensors and smart tools that are available in terms of collecting information and providing them is basically what is happening by most of the manufacturers. It is required to be done. And like Samir rightly pointed out, there's I mean, the whole industry 4.0 is a huge umbrella. And every user would have to identify what aspect of it is suitable to them in terms of adaptation. There's no one size fits all kind of a concept in this whole technology. So it's all about understanding, finding out, being a little more hands-on to find out what aspect of it is suitable and relevant to specific parts of manufacturing, and leverage on that so that it helps and aids their whole manufacturing process and or product validation process. So I think again, coming back to the point that you asked, surely from the challenging times are here, but they're not going to be here for long. People are just waiting, they're observing, they're watching, trying to see, monitor some of the triggers to see when they can actually jump and go ahead in adaptation of these technologies. I strongly believe this is not going to change going ahead. People are looking, in fact, the whole virtual platform of having our meetings and meeting people itself is one of the best examples that we've seen in the past 6 months, ever since the lockdown started, where people have been a lot more reachable and approachable through the virtual platforms. I think this itself is a good example, and I'm sure going ahead, multiple of such opportunities and platforms are going to trigger up where doing things using leveraging on digitalization would be the way forward. And it's not, I strongly believe it's not an option. People will have to learn and adapt these new technologies, just like how they had to use some of the previous industrial revolutions to be able to sail along with the momentum. Otherwise, they'll be out of the rat race. So I feel this is going to surely stay and grow further going ahead.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure the use of digitalization will increase definitely. The best example is the way we are meeting today.
Absolutely.
We are not meeting in the conference hall in some hotel. We are meeting online. That's the best example, and I'm sure it will change in the manufacturing as well.
True.
So I think with this, we will have before going ahead with the next question, we will have a poll just to understand the audience thoughts about the digitalization technologies. So I will request Anvita to just launch this poll question.
Can we have the poll questions on screen, please? Okay, so the question is, given the current dynamics, how important is it for you to deploy most advanced tools in your organization to meet your product development complexities? You have 20 seconds to lodge your answers, and the 20 seconds start now. The options are: we must start using the tools we already have more effectively, we should be deploying them immediately, and the new normal will change and go back to the previous way of working. Okay, 20 seconds are up. Can we have the answers, please? Okay, so 63% people think that we must start using the tools we already have more effectively, while 30% people feel we should deploy them immediately. And only 8% think that it is going to go back to the previous way of working. So I'll just hand it over back to Mr. Chaskar to continue with the discussion.
Yeah, I think that was interesting result. So that shows many of the companies, they already have the digital tools, but it's not probably the 100% utilized. And very few are saying that the scenario before pandemic will come back again. It's the fact that we have to go with the new normal. Everyone is in the same storm, probably different boats, but in the same storm. So there is no option for digitalization technology. So we need to use that. The next question, just a second. So overall, yeah, I will ask this question to Nitin. Overall, how can digitalization technologies help to achieve the operations and quality excellence in manufacturing, as well as before manufacturing, maybe the product development today?
Sure, Shekhar. You know what? Like I talked in my presentation, it is a question of how do we optimize our different parameters. Basically, these parameters can be anything like, optimizing your budget, saving time, or even optimizing resources. So these parameters, I believe, can help achieve your quality excellence. Let's take an example of medical devices. Right? The regulation standards here differ from country to country. Now, let's say, for example, you get an order from a European country, and if you don't have the right tools with the standards built in, you're definitely going to struggle. Let's take a simple example. I mean, India uses electrical devices with 240 volts. USA uses devices with, I think it's like 120 volts. And China uses them with different voltages. So what you're saying is, if your digital solution has the standard libraries built in them, it just makes your job easier.
Yeah, then comes the last question. I will ask every speaker if they can just put it in short, their thoughts on what next, what kind of changes the manufacturing industry and the manufacturers they can anticipate going further, and what kind of strategy and approach the industry should think of to respond to these challenges and remain competitive. I will start with Mr. Devgi.
Sure. Sir, I think first of all, we need to embrace change. I think mostly everybody will say that yes, change is good, change can be adopted, but when it comes to doing the things, then there are a lot of issues in terms of disagreements, in terms of whether it will happen or not, all these things. So I think it principally we have to all of us in an organization or in the industry, we have to first decide that change is imminent and we have to embrace the change. Now, with that, what are the changes? Of course, it depends on individual work spaces as well as industries. I think once we are very clear on that, the next stage is to have a good training center. One thing which I normally observe in industry is we have very poor training centers. I had gone to Toyota many years back, and the moment you enter, there is a Gurukul there, and you first go and see everything, even from tightening a bolt till the picking up the bolt, everything is trained. There is a very strong training module and the course, and there is a lot of technologies used there. So even this technologies, forget about design, forget about this thing, even the training can have very good use of digital technologies. And I think we need to have focus on those kind of avenues also. So these are some of my thoughts, Mr. Jitkar.
Yeah, correct. Very well pointed out about the training and the skill upgradation. That's currently the challenge for every one of us. So, Dr. Vishwas, would you like to add your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think the future is going to be very interesting. Some of the trends that we feel are likely to happen, mostly under the banner of the digitalization, are going to be distributed manufacturing, where we are going to be seeing a lot of a real-time distribution of raw material and manufacturing based on real-time capacity in factories. We are going to see this. It's already trending in the West, where people or customers have real-time data or status of every machine's performance, uptimes, and efficiencies. So you'll see a lot of such distributed manufacturing that's going to come up and take over. Mass production will move away and mass customization will set in. We already heard about Kimball. I'm sure they're using some of the new technologies, both in design and manufacturing, in developing the products and providing them. So maybe even tomorrow it may move to mass individualization. We're already seeing mass customization to add in a lot of shoes. We see people like Adidas and Nike are already offering, if you look up on their website, you can see any of the shoe models. You'd have an option where you could design customized shoes, not only from an aesthetic perspective, but also size and shape. So someone with a specific foot size or a shape could get a custom insole printed and use them for their own use. So someone asked a question earlier, how are they going to do that in terms of volumes? How are they going to cater it? So just how today it's being done in mass production, where you have the raw material coming in and a program which is going to tell them what is to be manufactured. You have multiple of them being, which will be fed into machines and lines of machines which are going to be automated. And through leveraging on automation, we can do a lot of such things. In fact, one more interesting area is medical implants today. Even in India, there are people who've been benefiting, leveraging on 3D printed medical implants, which are all customized, both be it dental implants or medical implants itself for some of the bone replacements. So that's going to come in mass customization and mass individualization is going to come in. There's going to be a higher degree of integration between software and hardware or in the manufacturing process. Machines may just be a small portion of it, but a lot of software integration is going to come in to make it much more smarter, faster, remove a lot of inefficiencies in quality and in the whole operational aspects. Now that's going to come in. And with the smartness increasing, there'll be a lot of data, and with big data, there's going to be artificial intelligence kicking in, which is going to be predicting, machines are going to be predicting failure, premature failure. Machines are going to be telling something that's not going right. It's going to be a lot more interactive. Machines will have a smartness built into it through AI, which is already coming in. And in terms of what needs to change with us, I think to add to what Mr. Divgi already mentioned, we need to be agile, we need to be flexible, we need to see it coming, we need to keep our ear on the ground, talk to our customers, find out what trends they're looking at, what sort of problems do they have, and how they can leverage on some of the advanced technologies and see how that can be used to solve some of the problems that are not only trending today, but also what are likely to come going ahead in the future. I think if this is kept in mind, a lot of the manufacturers will be able to adapt and be ahead of the curve, and I think early adapters are the ones who are going to be benefiting much more than the laggards going ahead. So I think being aware and being cognizant of some of the growing trends and flexibility would probably make the big difference.
Perfect, perfect. So that's the training and the mass customization and the smart machinery. That's the trend which we can expect in future. Samir, would you like to add anything in this?
I would like to add, like, to what Vishwas and Shirish ji have said, that like, to make the entire organization flexible, ready to take in this wide range of the new technologies which are being developed all the time, it really needs a mindset change in the complete organization, down to the technician level, the machinist level, the supervisory level, and the management level. I mean, I believe that the current COVID related situation is a very good opportunity to bring about a path breaking change in the mentality of the entire company, like its people. Like, we should leverage this opportunity with a number of training, capacity building, and methodologies of thinking. So working in this direction will definitely make the organization capable to take in what is coming up ahead.
Correct, correct. That's well said. Nitin, would you like to sum up?
Sure. We feel that, as we go further, for organizations, timelines are going to get reduced big time. Now, along with the timelines, the cost has to reduce as well. And this, we believe, can be achieved, like, Dr. Vishwas said, this is something which you can achieve by mass customization. Now, let's take a simple example of, the case study of Kimball's that I mentioned during my presentation. Now, let's say the chair is going to be 100 people. Now, it's not necessary that all these 100 people are going to be of the same height and shape, right? So basically what we're saying is you should be able to create different variants of these chairs using the existing design, and that too quickly. Now, this is where you as an organization will actually get a competitive advantage, and it will help you to stand out. So mass customization is going to be the next way of working. I can also give you another example of something in India. We have a company called Career Wheels, which is based in North. Now, they are into manufacturing of rims. These includes tractors, bike, cars, and trucks rims. Now, every manufacturer, I'm sure, as you know, has a different type of rim, right, and which they would like to use for their products. And Career Wheels are able to achieve this by customizing their existing designs, and that too quickly. And for the record, they have somewhere close to 30,000 different types of customized designs already created. So ultimately, the stronger the tool that you have to achieve this kind of customization, the further you're going to stand out from your competition. That's what we feel.
Correct, correct. Yeah, so I will just take few questions for all of you. Yeah, there is one question from Suresh Jambulkar. Most of the customers lack of skill sets using digital tools. Even these tools are invested with high cost. So this challenge for service industry to support during this pandemic with available resource and cost at actual customer suffering and delays product to the market. Your views on this? Okay, what he mean to say is. Even after investing so much in deploying the digital tools in their setup, they need a lot. There is a lack of skill set. There is a lot of lack of training. So whether the service provider can help during this pandemic with the available skill resources and the cost. Nitin, can you put a light on that? Hello.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So, like I mentioned during the presentation as well, we understand, skills or upgrading your skills is a big factor as of now. Now, a lot of people mentioned, they are not able to find people who are working on these particular solutions. But, all the solution providers are actually working really hard to get this working. We have multiple training institutes. For example, I can talk from Siemens' point of view. So what we have done is we have collaborated with multiple colleges, in which we are teaching all these engineers of how to, how to go about product development. So this is something which you'll see over the next couple of years. You'll see a big boom in this particular area where a lot of designers will be ready by the time they pass or they come out from colleges.
Okay. Yeah. The next question is to adopt the digitalization for product development. I generally experience that the small scale manufacturing industries they face a lot of problem, and there is even a risk to transform their operation to digitalization. So do we as a country have that expertise and resources to take that risk of transformation? Would like to have some views from maybe Dr. Vishwas can answer this.
Yeah, true. I totally agree. For small scale industries, that you always have a challenge. You have a risk because there's no sufficient budget available for experimenting digitalization in their shop floor. But today, if you see, like I said, you don't have to look at the highest level of adaptation that maybe a corporate or a large scale company has done. There are much smaller things that can be tried out more cost effectively. As Mr. Ramesh very beautifully put it forward, innovation is ingrained into Indian mindset. So we can definitely look at what aspect of maybe jugaad that can be included in terms of maybe automating a process of data movement, data transfer, or maybe using some of the real-time way of monitoring the machine performance. All those could come in very cost effectively. And today, very interestingly, the cost of using some of these tools have come down drastically in the past couple of years, ever since the technology or IoT solutions were being had started coming into the market. So I believe if someone has an eye for it, they can definitely find multiple levels of adaptations in their own way, in their own facilities, be it a small scale or a large scale. But one thing is for sure, it is risky. There is a risk, a certain amount of risk involved. But the opportunity, anything that is easy would be adapted by everybody. So if you want to take that extra growth, you have to take that leap of faith and go ahead and see how you can leverage on this now. And this is an investment. Invariably, people are not able to measure this. There's no tangible benefit of an IoT implementation at this point in time, but over a prolonged period of time, I'm sure the results and the benefits are going to be much more satisfying. So I feel this is necessary. So it's only about looking at what aspect of it can be adapted and implemented in their own way.
Okay. The next question is, how do we arrive or formulate that we need a particular application like artificial intelligence or machine learning, or if I want to add this digital twin. So how do you really arrive to a particular decision that I need this specific application in digitalization? Maybe Nitin, can you comment on that? Hello, Nitin. I think he's offline. Mr. Divgi, would you like to answer this? How do you arrive or formulate that you need a particular application from digital?
I think, related to our industry, and I can cite some of our customers' examples. Some customers comes and says that for me, energy is very important. So he points out that for him, the energy is important. So we start from there. And, the sensors may be connected to the pumps and the motors where the energy is consumed, or the incoming cables where the energy is flowing. So from there we start, but at the same time, we also give him a flavor of what all can be built up on top of it. So based on the cost aspect and based on the need as well as the returns, he can go on adding it. So the start is from the most important thing. At one of the customers in automotive area, there was a need of, the particle counts, how fast can the particle drops or the weight of the part. So we added some weigh scales and sensors to count the parts as well as the weigh the parts. So of course it was only the starting of convincing the technology is how useful it is, and then they can add on the other features. So I think you have to make a start by identifying the most important thing, and I'm sure very soon the things will be liked by the people, they will be benefited by the people, and it expands.
Correct. Okay, I think other questions will take again offline because we are already running short of time. So I would like to thank each one of you for making the discussion very interesting and interactive and very useful. I'm sure the audience will have a great value out of this discussion. And to be honest, it was really great having all of you in this session. You really shared very fantastic views from your side, covering, giving justice to this topic. I'm really happy that we covered this topic very well in today's discussion. Thank you very much to all of you, and thanks to the audience as well. Over to you, Anvita.
Yes, thank you so much to all the speakers and the panelists who made time out for the event today. And I think Shekhar sir has summarized it pretty well. And yeah, it was an absolutely insightful session and on the industry progression for our audience. And again, thank you to all our speakers and our audience. Before closing, I would like to thank Siemens Industry Software for their support and cooperation in helping make this event a success. And once again, thank you to everyone. And I shall see you back over here for the third part of the series, which is on managing competitive challenges with effective product development using digital technologies, which would again be in association with Siemens on 27th August 2020. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Shekhar ji, Samir ji, and Vishwas ji, Mr. Nitin. Thank you very much.
Thank you all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, it was nice to have this.
Thank you.